corners.
Your station, my station, our station, Radio Al Ansar.
Get ready for Green Thumbs Up, the gardening and natural living show you didn't know you needed. I'm your host and life coach, Rabia Carvalho, and we're talking birds, bees, butterflies, and blooms, growing food in garden rooms, home-based holistic healing, and much more. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or nature lover, plant assassin, or permaculture professional, we got you. We got you. Let us bring you the ideas, the facts, support, and inspiration to go green wherever you are. Sundays 9 to 10 a.m. only on Radio Al Ansar.
Look at the sun, look at the sky, look at the birdie.
Radio Al Ansar.
It's so bright in the middle of the night.
Hey, it's Green Thumbs Up Day on this beautiful month of Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, dumelang. How are you, Siboniso? Sani Bonani, everybody. How is Ramadan treating you, brother Siboniso?
You see, this is Ramadan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, it's going smooth.
Alhamdulillah.
Everything is going well.
Alhamdulillah.
I think this is my year.
This is your year.
Yeah.
Why not? Inshallah. Inshallah. Folks, it is Ramadan. And so because of this, I wanted to dedicate quite a bit of the show to Ramadan, our natural apothecary segment, things to eat, a couple of recipes for you, some notes in terms of health for you. But before we do that, we are still gardening and natural living. And so not just the apothecary, but we will be having a guest on the show that's going to be talking to us about fertilizers and soil types. Now, Siboniso, when I was listening to the news and Eric was talking about foot and mouth disease, and I always find it interesting, the whole concept of vaccinations. Now, this is my personal opinion. Our personal opinions do not reflect the opinion of Radio Al Ansar. And so I must state that up front. But here's my boggle, if you follow my drift. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were talking about foot and mouth disease. And the idea was foot and mouth disease will give you, it's a viral infection. Okay, so it's going to give you 6 to 10 days of a fever, some blisters on your hands and your feet, kind of like chicken pox, right? But after 10 days, nothing.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's all right. It's all right. So now it begs the question, Mara, why vaccines again? Mara, why social distancing? Like, why? We don't know why they do these things. But folks, anyway, who am I to say? This is just my personal opinion, of course. But let's get on with the show, because with us, if you have joined us on social media, and that is on Radio Al Ansar, we have Alex Platt that is joining us this morning. And now he's done a BCom, but he's been working in his family business for the last 6 years. And he's quite interested in creating new ways of efficiently growing food in South Africa. In other words, you maximize the profits and you don't minimize the yields. Nah? You maximize the profits. So for that, you've got to have some good yields as well. And we're going to be talking to him a little bit about fertilizers, what we should be doing. We know about NPK, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper. So good morning, Alex, and welcome to the show. Thank you for making the time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, Alex, tell us a little bit more about your journey in understanding how soils and fertilizers work, because everybody starts with fertilizers. What fertilizers? How did you get started there?
Sure. So yeah, very interesting. Luckily was lucky enough to join the family business, and not having an agricultural education or much of an agricultural background, just from hearing my dad speaking on the phone, you hear about how his business worked. But I think our attitude to agriculture in the early days, or 20 years ago, was a little bit advanced to what traditional agriculture was taught. And I entered with the approach of being quite regenerative. So our business was always focused on soil health, which is not necessarily how conventional agricultural farmers are taught. They don't really focus on soil health. They just focus on fertilizing. And plants need nutrients. So you've got artificial nutrients you can feed the plants, and the more you give the plants, the higher the yields that you think you might get. But there's a double-edged sword there, where the more fertilizers you use, which are synthetic, it's killing the life in the soil. So you get on the treadmill and you become a slave to fertilizers. So you have to keep using them year after year. And the more you use fertilizers, the more damage you do to the soil. And there's a balance there. We use fertilizers. We promote fertilizers that sometimes are synthetic, but we take more of an organic approach. And if you look at the syllabuses now in universities, they still educate, NPK, nutrients that plants need, and not necessarily biology in the soil. So that's where farming's going. It's focusing on biology, not chemistry. And it's a deep dive to really understand how it all works. And I think that's the tricky thing that farmers try and avoid, because it is so tricky.
Oh, that is amazing. And folks, that deserves a round of applause. The fact that folks are actually starting to get with the program and saying it's not about the chemicals you add to the soil. It's about the soil health. I have the same approach when it comes to human health as well. It's not, take a tablet and, get finished with it. No, it's about looking at the root cause. So, and I love what you said about you become a slave to the chemicals, because now you have no good soil unless they're feeding on the chemicals. In other words, you're turning soil that is a biome-rich, alive thing into this bland canvas substrate, basically, that is devoid of pretty much anything. So how would you take care of the soil then through the seasons? Because we're talking about fertilizing, but from a natural, organic, soil-based perspective, what should we be doing? Let's maybe start with now, because now we are in kind of a crossover season, being in the summer, going into autumn, although the autumn is not so bad here in Durban. What should we be doing for our soils from a soil health perspective, and then from a fertilizer? We do a lot of organic fertilizing, but I'm leave it with you.
Yeah, so over and above fertilizing, you can also look at crop rotation. So it's planting the right crops at the right time. So not just planting spinach after spinach and cabbage after cabbage and mealies after mealies, because each plant has a different nutrient requirement, and each plant also cycles different nutrients back into the soil. So understanding which crops complement each other, you plant them one after the other, and they start to feed themselves. So you minimize your requirement for fertilizing, and that's obviously good for the pocket. Composting, often, farmers, homeowners, gardeners have their own compost heaps, and that's a great sustainable way to feed your soil with what you have. Feeding organic matter back into the soil is basically adding life back into the soil. So that's what we always promote as a business, use what you have. Organics, we can also go far down the road of what kind of organic products to use, but, it's using the right products when you need them. Don't use too much, because you don't want to be a moron. That's the saying from an American agronomist, don't be a moron. Don't put more on when you think you need to grow. So, use it wisely, and if you build the soil life, it treats you well.
Yeah, so in terms, we're now in the summertime, and you said, all of these things we talk about on the show. We talk about composting, we talk about companion gardening, and there was a lady that gave me some advice on one of the groups. I said, what is the one thing that you've learned in gardening that you could share as a tip for people? And she gave us this idea and I want to credit her, but I can't remember her name. And it's on one of my gardening groups. And she said she's got this big bucket, like a 25-liter bucket, and she's buried it. And so the lid sits kind of surface level. And she throws her kitchen scraps into there. And I thought, how clever, because all the little creepy crawlies that are supposed to be there are going in there. And every once in a while, you throw a little bit of soil in there. And you could have a few of these, depending on the size of your property, and have like an underground compost. So you don't have all the flies and the muggies and all of these things in your garden. Now, some people will message, what do we do in terms of fertilizing or soil health when you've got flowers and the flowers come up, but either, it might be pollinators, but what if it's not pollinators? It doesn't turn into fruit. The flowers fall off before they can be pollinated, or the fruit falls off. What do we do then?
Sure, that's a tricky question. And no, that's probably a little bit above my pay grade. But what I will say to that is that, like these shows and advancing in agriculture and advancing technologies in agriculture, an app like Manus AI, you take a photo of it, put it on there, and you ask it, what does it need, or what do you want it to do? What should you be doing? So I rely a lot on technology because I don't have an agricultural history. I've learned what I've learned, but that's what we do. We lean on people that know, and a ChatGPT, I suppose, can do the same thing. You take a photo of your plant, and it will tell you exactly what plant it is, how much you should be watering it, when you should be feeding it, and that's your agronomist friend. So that's what I would say is lean. Lean on the people that know more. That's what I do, because I don't know enough.
All right. Well, then I've got a little tip for you, because when it comes to those flowers falling off, if someone comes and says to you, Alex, my flowers keep falling off, what do I give the thing? Tell them the first thing you want to do is check for pollinators. Do you have enough wasps and bees and critters? First of all, if you don't, take a little paintbrush and start to pollinate your own flowers. If that is not the case, and you've got lots of bees and bugs and things like that, then have a look at, do you have enough magnesium in your plant? Because the magnesium helps your plant, magnesium and phosphorus, helps your flower to set into fruit. And then if your fruit is falling off, then you want a higher K. So the way I look at it in terms of N and P and K, whether it's banana skin or whether it's whatever, and I don't know if you agree with this, is we start in the beginning of the season and we need nitrogen because we need leaves. Then that's our N. Then we need then we're going into the flowers are coming out. Now we need our magnesium, and we need more of the P. So by the NPK, make the P a little higher. And then when you've got your fruit, make the K a little higher. It kind of makes sense to to give it to people that way. If you were to give us one piece of advice in terms of fertilizing, because you do work with a lot of fertilizers, what is some of the questions that you get and the advice that you give in terms of fertilizers, the most frequently asked?
So the first thing is know what's in your soil, and you can't know what's in your soil without doing a soil test. So paying 300 Rand or 350 Rand to do a soil test, and any farmer, I don't know if a home gardener would do it, but probably worthwhile. You do a soil test that lasts you for a few years. And more importantly is doing a sap analysis, a leaf test. So knowing exactly, it's like doing your blood test as a human. You go into the doctor, and the doctor can't prescribe anything until they know what's wrong with you, what's deficient. And they do that by taking a blood sample or by looking at your leaf analysis. And then you know exactly what that leaf is absorbing and what it's not absorbing. So it's either deficient in the soil, or maybe there is nutrients in the soil that is not plant available. So like your phosphorus and your potassium, there's often a lot in the soil, but it's not in a plant available form. And oftentimes you can make it plant available by adding organics and adding other products that make, so you're not adding phosphorus to give the plant phosphorus, you're adding something to make the phosphorus more plant available. And you don't really know that until you've done a soil or leaf test. And, for 300 Rand or 400 Rand, it's such a worthwhile investment because, that minimal cost can lead to, 10x, 20x times yields. Exactly. And you end up saving money because a lot of farmers just fertilize because they've been told to use their fertilizers in this regime. But oftentimes, if they see what's in the leaf, maybe there's too much potassium, maybe there's too much phosphorus or nitrogen. So you end up subtracting what you should be applying, and you end up saving money and giving the plant what it needs so it performs better. So that's our advice: is use your technology.
Yeah, your leaf. What did you call it? A sap test. How does it work?
How does analysis
happen?
So we use a company called AgriSol, quite a good service. They've partnered with a career guy. So a farmer will take, it ends up being about, I think, 500 grams of leaves. So it's quite a lot of leaves. It's 80 leaves. And you put it in a bag, a Ziploc bag, and you drop it off with a career guy. It gets sent to the lab, and 7 days you've got your full nutrient breakdown of what that plant has and what it doesn't have and where the ideal targets are. And you start to understand, exactly what that plant needs. So it's quite a progressive tool or process, but I think all, main farmers will be using them now. A lot of maize farmers in the Free State and Northern KZN are doing sap analyses, every 2-3 weeks.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes sense if you've got a lot of the same thing. So you're farming, you have got a lot of maize, you've got a lot of mango, you've got a lot of something. So it's kind of all the same type of plant, because otherwise you'd have to be testing the leaves of every plant to find out, because every plant's needs and nutrient uptake is going to be different.
Exactly. Yeah, so you can go as deep as you want to go. You can also go as shallow as you want to go. And just starting with, soil test is crucial. And farmers that don't have soil tests, I often, just ask them the question, well, how do you know what you need to fertilize with? And a lot of people don't have access to it. So that's why these tools like AgriSol are making it a little bit more accessible, and also the knowledge of, knowing what to do and when to do it.
What to do, absolutely. So little home tests, kits and things like that, home owners could use, smaller gardeners could use, or is it just for your large commercial farmers?
No, for sure. We deal a lot with small scale farmers. So we deal a lot with, 1 hectare kind of farmers, even as small as, 2,000, 3,000 square meters. And even then, we recommend it as much to them as we would. Well, I think the large scale commercial farmers would already be doing it, but we recommend it to absolutely everyone. And even your home gardener, if you want to go in a little bit further, your veggie garden owners, why not? Why not spend 300 Rand on a soil test to understand what's in your soil?
Absolutely. And then you know what you need to put in there, and you can learn a little bit about crop rotation. I know a lot of people, for instance, they love petunias, and they have petunias in a basket, and those petunias die after 2 seasons, and they wonder why, because petunias are very, very hungry for one nutrient, but for none of the others. And so I always say, just change your plants around. Well, Alex, it's been great having you on the show. Tell us, where can people get a hold of you if they're wanting to learn more and they're wanting to get maybe, referred to some of these places or these products?
Sure. Our website is regenz.co.za. We've got a couple of social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, which is Regen and Beyond. And our email address is info@regenz.co.za. We welcome all questions and queries.
Wonderful. So we regen and beyond.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks, Rabia.
A wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, folks, that was Alex, and he was telling us a little bit about fertilizers, and it's amazing, the way that technology is going. And this is why I love teaching, because technology is wonderful, and at the same time, we can become so dependent on technology that if it's not there, we just don't know anymore. We don't know what to do anymore. And that's been said to be one of the dangers of AI technology. It's not that it isn't helpful or that it's going to take over our lives, but it can make us brain numb. And how it makes us brain numb is that we become reliant on it for knowledge and for information. And our brain has the capacity to know things without us having to ask all of these questions of AI. We are going to take a short ad break, but before we go on this ad break, when we come back from this ad break, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about Ramadan, our eating habits, our supplementation habits. Get your questions ready, 0609041056. I've got a couple of recipes for you, some of my favorite herbs to use in this month. So let's talk about it. And I would so much rather, dear listeners, talk with you than talk at you. So please, you know what? You can phone in, you can dial in, you can use the same number, Sibanisu, 0609041056. Send in your voice notes, any questions that you may have or peculiarities. So let's go to that ad break.
Call us now on 0861 904 904.
Great news for members of Discovery Key Care Medical Aid. Lenmed Shifa Private Hospital has been selected as a designated service provider for Discovery Key Care patients. We now offer neuro and vascular surgery services, further strengthening our commitment to better serving our communities and expanding access to specialized care. With a mission to create healthier and more prosperous communities, Lenmed Shifa Private Hospital looks forward to welcoming more of you into our care. Visit lenmed.com for more information. Lenmed, embrace every day.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickville Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Imagine fasting and not knowing you'll have something to eat at iftar. This is a sad reality for thousands of new and indigenous Muslims in Southern Africa. Each Ramadan, for over 20 years, the Islamic Dawah movement has been providing iftar meals in over 50 township masjids. All it takes is 30 rand per meal. 30 rand provides an iftar meal for a fasting person. Your help would make a world of a difference. Call IDM on 031 304 6883 or visit idmsa.org to donate. IDM, taking Islam to as many hearts and homes as possible.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, beautiful people. Just a quick heads up from your technician. I am Smosum Keys. It is the blessed month of Ramadan. Your favorite late night show, Nightline, will now be broadcasting at 10:30 p.m. inshallah. So make sure you stay tuned and stay connected to Radio Al Ansar, where we keep you inspired, informed, and uplifted. Wassalamu alaikum. I am Smosum Keys, your technician.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs Up. Hey, Siboniso, I dig that, brother. Super awesome, alhamdulillah. Yes, the questions are starting to come in. We're talking about Ramadan, Nature's Apothecary. We're talking about what you eat, when you eat, your supplementation and herbs. And a question has come in that says, Assalamu alaikum, Rabia. Wa alaikum salam. When is the best time to eat fruit in Ramadan? I am so glad you asked that question, because here's the thing. In Ramadan, the most important thing is food motility, right? It's moving the food in your gut, because our eating window is very short, right, Sibu? So if your window is short, when do you eat the different things? Now, fruit ferments very quickly in our gut, and it releases the sugar and it starts to ferment. So if you have that fermentation happening, underneath and then you're eating food on top.
Yeah, bro.
What happens when stuff starts to ferment? It releases gases, right? So do you ever find sometimes your stomach gets big, but it's hard? So you're pressing down. you got your 6-month-old baby here today on the tummy, right? And you're pressing it. So if you were to press your tummy, does it feel soft and squishy, or does it give you a pushback? Pushback. So when you have that pushback, that means that there is pressure inside the gut. And it means that there is the food is fermenting. So if you're eating fruit, you're going to get more of that pressure. You're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to be that pressure that you feel like, oh, but my tummy is tight and it's sore. So eat your fruit last. And here's the thing about fruit.
You're saying
last. After your meal.
After
your meal. So if you're going to have some fruit, have fruit. But here's another trick. Eat your fruit last, after your food. Chew it very, very, very carefully. Because the less you chew your food during Ramadan, the more gas buildup you're going to get. The less you chew your food, the harder your stomach has to work. The more you're going to get constipated. The more you're going to feel tired because your body's taking all of its resources to breaking down the food. So by eating fruit last, the fermentation is happening of the fruit on top of the food, and it's helping to break down the food that you've eaten after. So it is a very French way to eat your fruit after. So it helps to break down the rest of your food. Okay, another question that's come in. Assalamu alaikum, Rabia. Wa alaikum salam. Hope you're well. What suggestions do you have to clear congestion and anything related to viral infections? Not too heavy, please. I have some medical allergies. Jazakallah for the lovely program. Have a blessed Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak to you too. And for viral things, there are two main resources I go to. The first one is rosemary, because it is such a powerful antiviral. And the second is golden seal. Now, those two, the golden seal usually is available as a tincture. The rosemary you can get as a rosemary, you can get it as a tea. And rosemary is not going to be harmful if you have other medications. It doesn't interact with a lot of things at all. You can also use rosemary as an essential oil. So for your congestion here, take some rosemary essential oil, 2 to 3 drops, put that into a tablespoon of castor oil. Because castor oil clears up sinuses, reduces the size of nasal polyps, deswells nasal turbinates that have become enlarged. So take your castor oil, 1 drop in each nostril. Either put it on your finger and then let the drop fall in, or use a Q-tip or a little bit of cotton wool dipped in the castor oil and squeeze it into your nose. By adding the rosemary, you are adding the antiviral, and you're getting the anti-inflammatory, antibacterial properties of the castor oil. And then you're getting the antiviral properties of the rosemary, and you're sending it in situ. You're putting it into the place right at your sinuses for congestion. If it's chest congestion, chest congestion, yes, you can have your rosemary tea. Yes, you can take your golden seal tincture. You can make a cup of rosemary tea with 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary to a cup of boiling water. And to that, you will add your 10 to 15 drops of golden seal tincture 2 to 3 times a day. Remember, do not do this if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Herbs and tinctures should be avoided. You put that into your water, and then the idea is to sip. And it goes back to the congestion in our guts, that if you are sipping drinks rather than gulping them down, you're not swallowing air. And if you're not swallowing air, you're going to be able to digest your food a lot better without all of the air taking up the space. Now, we've got such a short window of time in which to eat, and we're wanting to eat the nutritious, healthy foods. But then the closer we're getting through Ramadan and the further we're getting along, we're eating less and less. And part of that is because our tummies are getting full of air. We eat fast, we just get it in, we're swallowing the air. There's congestion in our guts. It's not just the constipation, and it's the fermentation that happens in there. So chew your food very, very carefully. This is the time for mindful eating, for tasting your food. Yes, we're very hungry, so that initial bite, you're maybe going to chew and get it in, and you're going to go and read your salah, and then you're going to come back. Then start to slowly chew your food. Make it liquid, because your gut is dry. It's like this dry, barren ground. And so when we are breaking our gut, we want to reawaken the gut very, very gently. Very gently. So when you're drinking your dates and water, for example, you're drinking your water and you're having your dates. Do you have that with ice cold water because it's hot? But your gut doesn't like it. Your gut doesn't want it because your stomach is dry. It's parched. Your internal body temperature is lukewarm. If you were to drink hot water, and I'm not even kidding, sip that hot water, at the very least room temperature water with your dates, you are softening the stomach lining. You are preparing it for food. You're going to enjoy your food a lot more. You're going to be able to eat a lot more. You're going to be able to taste your food better, because the more warm water you drink, the more hot water you drink, the more your taste buds are revitalized. So 2 to 3 dates in your room temperature or warm water. What does it do? It's going to give your brain immediate glucose, and it's going to give your gut immediate fiber. It's a wonderful thing. Then you're wanting to hydrate your body. So you're either going to use a store-bought hydration fizzy. There are many out there. If you're going to buy those, please buy the ones that don't contain caffeine. Avoid the caffeinated ones. Look on the back on the ingredients. Look for the words magnesium, calcium, because that is going to not just hydrate your body, but feed your gut so that you are able to process food and obtain the most nutrients from it. We were talking about soil before the break, and it's the same thing. If our soil is healthy, it can absorb nutrients. The plants can absorb nutrients from it, right? If our gut is healthy, that's our soil, then our body can absorb nutrients from it. Because if you think about it, our gut, here's a mind bender for you, is not part of our internal space. It's part of our external space. We have a hole at the top, which is our mouth. We have another hole at the bottom. That's empty space, if you think about it, in between. The food is going into there. It's being stored. It's being moved along in that inner outer space. And it requires air and it requires water. So here's some hydration recipes for you. You know, my go-to very simple one is your glass of water with your pinch of bicarbonate of soda, your pinch of pink salt, Himalayan salt. And if you're wanting a little bit of honey and a little bit of lemon, why not? That's beautiful. That is the very basic. But let's go another step further. You want a deep hydration elixir. You're going to need coconut water for that one. So it's 500 milliliters of coconut water. You're going to take a 1/4 teaspoon or a pinch of that pink Himalayan salt, 1 tablespoon of raw honey. And then you're going to take the juice of half a lime. Limes, lemons are interchangeable. Do not substitute for oranges. Don't substitute for mineolas. They have a different effect on the body, and they may raise your pH, making your body more acidic. And because you're not drinking water in the day, then we're ending up with bladder situations, and we're ending up with kidney situations. Okay. So then the electrolytes in that coconut water and the minerals in the salt will actually help you at a cellular level. Let's go back to some of the questions. Rabia, back to the fruit questions. Sure. Jazakallah khair for the answer. We are told not to eat fruit after meals. What's your take? My take is eat your fruit with your meal, but at the end of the meal. That is my take, because it's going to ferment and it's going to sit at the top. So if you have any gas, you're going to burp it out. If you have your fruit, you're eating a lot of fruit first, it's providing a fermentation background underneath, in other words. And if there is any blockage, because during Ramadan we are fasting for extended periods every day, how is it going to get out? You run the risk of forming a plug down there because we're not eating, and then you've got all this fermentation going on. So if you are going to eat fruit, eat them with your meals at the end of the meal. If you're going to eat it at the beginning of the meal, allow 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you eat your food, so that the fruit can break down first. So that is my advice based on what I do and what I experience and what I know about fruit. In fact, I've been on this entire gut health binge for a very, very, very long time. And I have found that the gut motility is so important because it affects our hormones, it affects our moods, not just our immune system. You know, if your gut is unhealthy, if your gut is not functioning properly, if you're sitting with a lot of wind and a lot of gas and a lot of fermentation, do you know that your body cannot absorb the nutrients it needs? If it cannot function properly, your brain then cannot create the hormones that you need. Some hormones like cortisol, are created. You need your insulin to be released. You need your hormones to be created in your body. Cortisol, too much cortisol is created in your body as well. Then you've got a problem. So to balance all of this out, what balances all of our hormones out? It is our gut health that balances it. And the older we get, the more important it is to take care of our gut health so that our hormones can function optimally. We know that they change throughout the month. And as we get older, this isn't just for women. Men experience something called andropause. There's a drop in testosterone, right? For women, there's a drop in estrogen. For other women, there's a drop in progesterone. Women also suffer a drop in testosterone. So it is very, very important. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Rabia says, MH Osman, safest, eat fruits or veg on an empty stomach at least half an hour before a meal. There you go. If you're wanting to eat your fruit before a meal, allow a gap before the fruit and then your food. And I maintain, if you're going to eat your food and you're going to have fruit, allow a little space, have some fruit after, make sure you're chewing thoroughly, and add hot water. Add hot water. Don't just eat the fruit dry like that. Or don't just drink fruit juice. This is the other thing, is people will say, well, I'm going to have a glass of fruit juice and then have another glass of fruit juice. Fruit juice is full of something called fructose, which provides energy only to the liver. Our body runs on glucose predominantly, and then ketones, which comes from fat as well. So if we're running mostly on glucose because we're eating a lot of carbohydrates and then we're drinking a lot of juice, that fructose has got to go somewhere. It's energy. It converts to fat that gets stored in our liver. So fruit juice, a lot of fruit juice with our meals is also not a good thing. Water, water, water. And honestly, I understand that it's hot out and you're thinking, gosh, the last thing I want to do is sit and drink hot water. I'd rather have tea. That's fine. Just remember that some teas, particularly black tea, you're making that boiled tea, you're boiling the black tea for a very long time. Now you've got a diuretic in a glass. And what's that going to do? As our food progresses through our gut, throughout the day, we've had our siri, the food now is being processed, digestion is slowing down slightly. Throughout the day, our body continues to remove moisture from the food that we ate until it exits our body. So by the time that it gets to the exit point, it has become hard, congealed, and formed a plug. And this is what we're wanting to avoid. When you drink hot water with meals and you sip on that hot water, It's fine to have your cold drinks in between, your eating period, but drink the hot water as well, because that hot water is going to soften any fats that are in your foods. It's going to move things along. It's going to help you to release trapped air. So if you are eating fruit at the wrong time of the meal, then at the very least, it's going to help to move that out of your body. So let's talk about a lovely starter recipe for your iftar. If you wanted to have a restorative soup, then a red lentil soup is just perfect. You would take 1 cup of red lentils, to that 1 diced onion, 2 cloves of minced garlic. So take your cloves, mince them up, 1 teaspoon each of turmeric and cumin, 5 cups of bone broth or vegetable stock. Oh, bone broth is so wonderful for our gut at this time. And 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So you're going to saute those onions and the garlic, right, in the oil. Saute it lightly. You don't want to burn your garlic. Add your lentils and then your spices. If you're wanting to add other spices, by all means, go ahead and do that. Just remember, too much spice on a dry stomach, too much spice is not nice if it's going to be on a dry stomach. So then you pour in the broth. You've added your spices and your lentils to the pot. You've poured in the broth and you've simmered it for around about 20 minutes. And you can then blend it to a smooth consistency if you would like that, and if you don't want the chunky bits. But it is easier on the gut if you don't have chunky bits. So let's say you love your halim and you're having your halim. Try to get your halim as smooth as possible without the chunky bits. That's one step in the right direction, because you're having a warm fluid and you are having it smooth for the gut. It's going to line that tummy, and it's not going to immediately land there like little stones that your stomach muscles have to try to break down on their own. Okay. If you find that you get restless legs in the night as we progress into Ramadan, please take some magnesium citrate shortly before your main meal. So you've broken your fast, you've read your salah, you're now going to eat some more. Take your magnesium citrate just a few minutes before and then eat. Why? It is going to help to draw any water that you drink into the intestines. So the water that you drink is not going to go from your mouth straight out again where you're passing that water, but it's actually going to say, hold on, water, come hither into the intestinal tract and not just the urinary tract. A nice one for the flatulence that may arise or the fermentation that you may get from foods, vegetables, fruits, foods that you have not chewed properly. Some ginger and fennel tea is lovely, lovely, lovely. Fennel is sumph. There we go. You can also just chew on some sumph seeds if you have gas, but your ginger and fennel brew or ginger and fennel tea is lovely. You take about a finger length of fresh ginger, chop it up, take a teaspoon of fennel seeds, put the 2 on the stove top in the little pot with 500 ml of water and bring that to a boil. When it boils, reduce the heat and then let it simmer. Just let it simmer about 10 minutes so that you've got it all in there. Now, this is also a wonderful tea, just as a side note, for us older birds, us older ladies and gents, because fennel is going to help to balance those hormones. So, fennel is a wonderful one. When you are doing your pre-dawn meal, your suhoor, right, sehri in the morning, a wonderful thing that I always tell people is please try your overnight oats. Won't you try your overnight oats? They don't have to be cold, but take a clean jar in the evening and fill it up with a cup of oats, some raisins, some nuts, some chia seeds, a tablespoon of chia seeds, some poppy seeds, some pumpkin seeds, and then throw in your almond oil or your oat milk or your cow's milk, if that's what you prefer. Make sure that you have a good sleeve of milk above the oats so that it'll begin to break down the fibers in the oats and make it more easily accessible for your gut in the morning. In the morning, when you take your oats out of the fridge, you scoop it up, put it into your bowl. You can pour some hot milk over it because it's not going to be watery. The oats expand. The fibers break down. The raisins, if you've got raisins in there, dates in there, you can certainly have that in there. It will already have started to break down. Those enzymes are going to start to break down. So when you eat them, it's going to be super fantastic. A little dash of cinnamon over your morning cereal, whatever that cereal is, or this overnight oats is great to keep your blood sugar consistent for longer so that you're not so hungry as the day goes on. Cereals like these fast cooked cereals, these, corn flakes and Fruit Loops and things like that, you're literally just eating straw and sugar with some flavoring in. Frankly, we ain't horses. We don't eat the straws. Probiotics. Take your probiotics. Ideally, take your probiotic in the morning with your suhoor. That's when you take your probiotic, when the gut is relatively clear, so that these good bacteria can create a framework for you to digest your food for the rest of the day. And before bed, if you struggle to get to sleep because you've got a heavy tummy, hibiscus tea. Hibiscus tea, a teaspoon of the dry hibiscus in that cup of boiling water for 5 to 10 minutes will have you sleeping like a rock until it is time to rise again, whether that is for tahajjud or you're going to rise for your suhoor. Hibiscus tea will also help to calm your nervous system. And when the nervous system is calm, our digestion can work better, which is why during Ramadan, we need to mind our P's and Q's and just be nice. Really, we don't have to say things that are nasty. We can just hold them back, keep them in. If it's not nice, don't say it. Right? As I always say, here's your Rabia-ism for the day. You keep it beautiful or you keep it moving. Inshallah. Stay tuned for Sister Salma Kazi Wahab coming up with a Sunday Lounge just after the 10 o'clock. We're having a news, yes? 10 o'clock? Yeah, boy, yes. And until I see you next week, if you have any questions, you can feel free to send them along. Or you can find me on my social media platforms. That's Life Coach Rabia. Remember, it is a beautiful day to be happy. I wish you all a blessed Ramadan, inshallah. May Allah's every answer to your du'as be Ameen, inshallah. Grant you success and barakah.
Also, we're making dua for our station manager.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please make dua for our station manager, Brother Faisal Suleiman. He is recovering. It is slow progress, but this is someone who is very near and dear to our hearts, really. And we want him to have a speedy recovery, return to his family, completely healthy with any other complications, inshallah. Granting full shifa with afia. From me to you, from the entire team here, Brother Sibinisi Mkizi, our producer, Kelly Ramzani, and myself, Rabia Carvalho. Until we see you again, we'll speak to you again next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillah. Okay. They call me Ramzan. They say that love never lasts, that love never lives to see.